Recently, I've been exposed more and more to the famous cooking YouTuber Joshua Weissman. Initially, my YouTube algorithm showed me his videos because I was checking out other cooking channels. I found his editing style pretty over the top and his personality to be a bit much, so I never found the urge to return to his videos.
So if you've ever gone out with your friends or family and you go to get fajitas and then you look at the menu and you're like, when you see that price, well, why deal with that when you can have them for this price right here?
However, in the last week or two, more people on social media have been calling out Weissman for his privileged way of cooking, where he can afford to have the best equipment and ingredients available while maintaining that this is for home cooks, and anybody can do it. I decided to give Weissman another go, just to gain some perspective on the subject. And while I agree with the aforementioned statements, something caught my eye in the video, making fried rice faster than a restaurant. Additionally, the title of the video didn't quite make sense either. I became fascinated with Weissman's claim that he could, in fact, cook fried rice faster than a restaurant. And in doing so, I went down a rabbit hole that is making me question not only Weissman's presumptions, but also his way of life. People may think I'm overblowing this. People may think I'm crazy. I don't care. Since the creation and proliferation of YouTube, content creators ought to have the same kind of integrity that news outlets and talk show hosts should have. Lying and twisting of words to your audience of 6.35 million subscribers is not a good look for you, Josh. And frankly, I believe it's time for you to face some consequences for your actions. I'm going to expose you so hard in this video, and you didn't think I could see your lies. But I've edited maybe a dozen videos in my life, totaling to maybe 500 views, and your slimy tricks won't work on someone of my caliber. Without further ado, I present Josh Weissman Exposed. Josh claims that in this video, as one could plainly read, that he can, in fact, make fried rice faster than a restaurant. Going only off of what is said here, one can assume that Josh is going to have someone go to the restaurant and then have them execute a phone call, where as soon as the person at the restaurant orders the food, Josh can get the go-ahead to begin cooking his own iteration of the fried rice. However, immediately upon beginning the video, lying Josh twists the rules in his favor right out of the gate. Josh says that his rules to beat the rice being cooked faster is that...
Welcome back to the series where we make the fastest version of your favorite foods, today being combination fried rice. You should know that by now. Someone's gonna call in, go out, get it, bring it back, and I have to make it before they get back. With all that being said, let's make this, shall we?
That is not making fried rice faster than a restaurant. That is racing a delivery driver. Already Josh is doing anything he can in order to get the upper hand, and lying to his fans who wanted to see him cook rice faster than the restaurant. Secondly, I take another issue in the fact that Josh is tilting the scales even more in his favor by hiring his friend to call in and pick up the delivery. We don't know the credentials of this individual. We don't know if he has any experience driving or delivering orders to other people, and we don't know his style of driving. We also don't know if Josh paid him off under the table to intentionally slow down on his way to and from the restaurant. Additionally, as soon as we get in the car with Josh's friend, we hear, and I quote,
"We winning today, bro. I'm going speed limit, not finna hit no red lights. That is the goal, no red lights. Tired of this Weissman guy."
I would like to focus on one part of this statement, going the speed limit. First, no delivery driver, at least with DoorDash, Grubhub, or Uber Eats, will go the speed limit unless there's a police officer around. Trust me, as someone who dabbles in the industry, I'm a madman on those streets. I will concede that he might, in fact, go over the speed limit due to his Texas registration sticker on his car, but this still isn't entirely conclusive. This is purely anecdotal evidence from me, but I would say that about 70% of Texas drivers are literal psychopaths, and 30% are the slowest, most clueless drivers known to man. And seeing that this man is pretty young, I would assume he's in the former category. But to say that you're going to win, and follow up with saying that you're going to go the speed limit in Texas, that's a recipe for disaster. So before I continue, I just want to reference the thing that made me suspicious of this video in actuality, and show off my chops as an editor. Josh has this big digital clock in the right side of the frame that prominently displays the time, as a clock does. This got me thinking, could I potentially snipe some time discrepancies within Josh's video and further prove my point? The first instance of the clock appears at 13 seconds into the video, where the clock reads 11:40. His buddy, the driver, appears next ordering the food, and the clock says 11:42. Sure enough, Josh starts chopping garlic at the exact same time, meaning he's giving his friend no time at all to win the challenge. The dude is probably not even in his automobile yet, and Josh is already working on the food. Classic fucking Josh. Later, Josh is seen working at the sauce at 11:53, when he shifts perspectives onto his driver. But look at the driver's clock. 11:58. You son of a bitch, Josh. You thought you were so slick. You hurl a guy into Texas traffic, knowing full well you'll have all the time in the world to do all the embellishments you want onto your rice, while your friend is listening to a Joe Rogan Experience episode in traffic. Shame on you. So basically, the time discrepancy hurled me down this rabbit hole, but we're only just beginning. So at 4:51 in the video, Josh's driver has the completed food. The completed fried rice. Remember, the title of the video says, "Making fried rice faster than a restaurant." Now, I don't care about Josh's revised rules of the first 15 seconds. That's disingenuous. This dude is just now cooking the meat that he's going to put in the fried rice at 12:02, but meanwhile, the restaurant has already completed the order. So Josh, if you're worth your caliber as a chef, a chef that gets featured on Rachel Ray, Drew Barrymore, Forbes, Variety, Forbes, again? Why is this twice? Harper's Bazaar, Complex, Thrillist, and more, then you should know the time constraints you're working under and deliver a dish that can be completed in presumably 20 minutes. But no, you're simply too good for that. You need to include the return trip as well. Your hubris demands that you do more with this plate, including having a pressure cooker, which, let's check Amazon here for a decent one, $119. You think that people, according to Forbes, a publication you have been featured on twice, claims that 7 out of every 10 Americans live paycheck to paycheck can afford to go out and splurge on a pressure cooker? It seems you're a little more out of touch than you care to admit, but frankly, your subscriber and view count suggests that it's working for you. So more power to you, I guess. Keep doing what you're doing. Lying. So ultimately, I wanted to give Josh's driver the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Josh sent him to the closest restaurant that served fried rice relative to his location. Maybe it's more indicative that driving to a location to pick up food and then driving back home isn't lucrative compared to making it at home yourself. And as his online presences would suggest, from Austinite to Austinite, maybe I could somehow triangulate just how far away this restaurant was from the house he was cooking at. But to reiterate, that's just the beginning of the rabbit hole. We must go deeper. So earlier in the video, I mentioned that Josh's hired driver had a Texas registration sticker on his car. And that makes sense, because if you look at Google and type in either, "Where does Josh Weissman live?" or "Where does Josh Weissman work?" you'll read that he is not only a chef, but a cookbook author and a food blogger residing in Austin, Texas. Now one might think, oh well, that's all well and good. Good for Josh for living in such a rich, youthful tech, progressive, and homeless-ridden hotspot. To that I say, think again. See, when doing digging as to whether or not the driver in this video was getting a fair shake, I uncovered something damning. Let me walk you through this process. First, as mentioned before, I wanted to ensure that Josh was giving the driver a fair shake. As such, I scoured the video for clues to ascertain where the driver was going. First, the driver moves past a place called NoPo at 1:36 in the video, while the tracker at the bottom suggests that he's extremely close to Josh's house. After checking with Google Street View, sure enough, the locations matched up. So while I wouldn't necessarily be able to dox Josh's house, I was certainly deducing that I was probably within Josh's house's radius. But something more concerning revealed itself to me. The cities didn't match up. See, as mentioned before, I had said that Josh Weissman allegedly lives in Austin, Texas, according to any and all internet sources. But to my absolute shock, when I looked up the address of Chang's Chinese restaurant later in the video, I got an address that said it was in Houston, not Austin. This was it. My smoking gun. Josh doesn't live in Austin at all. Or rather, he is so rich that he has the ability to fly to and from Houston out of Austin as he sees fit. Now, initially, I thought, well, Maybe Josh sent his driver all the way from Austin to Houston as a prank, or to give himself more than enough time to cook the fried rice exactly as he saw fit. But as mentioned before, the clocks are the difference maker, and Josh's driver arrived back with the food at 12:15, 3 minutes after Josh had finished his dish. Now, as mentioned before, the driver's clock seemed to be 3 minutes ahead at all times, and although I think Josh is a smarmy liar, I won't hold this point against him. Anyway, Josh did, in fact, cook his superfluous fried rice plate in about 30 minutes, but it clearly was not faster than the fast food restaurant that finished it in about 10 minutes. Why 10? Well, the driver, hereby known as Ulysses, because I only just scoured the video this hard at this point, got to the restaurant after about 15 minutes and the food was already ready. So with that in mind, it's my assumption that they finished it in about 10 to 12 minutes. Again, faster than what Josh did. Now, is there a doubt in my mind that Josh could prepare a plate in 10 to 12 minutes? Not really. I mean, let's get real. With his kitchen and quality of materials to make food with, I'm sure Josh could make a pretty decent plate in about 8 or 9 minutes. But no, Josh's ego takes the stage and has to whip out every trick in the book he can to pointlessly drag out this meaningless competition since he misconstrued his own rules of his video title. So just how far away is Chang's from Josh's second, third, or ninth house? I managed to find both the NoPo address and Chang's restaurant and determined through Google Maps that there's a 5.3 mile differential between them. I scoured the video for any additional information, be it intersections, important businesses, or otherwise. However, Josh's editor is clearly up to my tricks. At 6:23, there's a potentially huge indication as to where they are, and this is important since the alleged tracker is so close to Josh's Houston residence. However, the editor is too slick and blurred out the intersection right on the frame where it appears. Trust me, I tried to analyze this as hard as I could, but to no avail. Which is for the best, since Josh probably doesn't want me to come over and bust out my air fryer and show him what's good in the realm of chicken nuggets or taquitos. So let's get back to the driver, Ulysses. As previously stated, the distance between Mopo and Chang's is 5.3 miles, but surely it won't be such a big deal since that distance is not large at all. However, there are some definite discrepancies occurring here. First, from Mopo to Chang's, there is a point where you can take the freeway to the restaurant. Now admittedly, I'm unfamiliar with Houston's freeways, but I hear they're pretty rough. With that said, after analyzing Ulysses' speedometer at various points of the video, I will say he was doing Josh plenty of favors. Beginning from 105 to about 110, he varies from 17 to 29 miles per hour. The next two times we see him, his speed cannot be determined, but the meter shows RPM doesn't exceed the number 1, which suggests he is still going slowly. At 357, he's going 30 miles per hour, and at both 515 and 602, he's going anywhere from 30 to 36 miles per hour. So what does this all mean? Well, as the footage suggests, at no point was Ulysses on the actual freeway. Rather, he was using frontage roads at best. This furthers Josh's ability to cook the food in a timely manner to beat Ulysses' delivery time. Additionally, Ulysses said himself that he was going to abide by the speed limit whenever possible.
We winning today, bro. I'm going speed limit.
Which, again, as a delivery driver myself, is complete bullshit. No delivery driver would adhere to the speed limit if possible. The goal is to maximize the amount of deliveries before your phone dies, so time is of the essence. Ulysses is not using the optimal route that going on a freeway could provide. This could have shaved precious seconds or potentially minutes from his time on the road. But of course, as we all know from the beginning of the video,
truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Ulysses averaged a speed of about 26 miles per hour, which is barely above the speed limit required for a suburban neighborhood. This would mean that it would take Ulysses approximately 12 minutes to go to the restaurant. This implies that there's another minimum 12 minutes to get back to the house. Of course, this is still a rough approximation since we still don't know Josh's address. Granted, this makes sense because his delivery apparently took 30 minutes overall, but with no sense of urgency, the numbers are skewed. Josh finishes cooking at 12:12 p.m., so would shaving 3 minutes off of the drive change anything? In fact, it would. At 6:35 in Josh's video, he is still finishing his elaborate platter on the stove. So if Ulysses had just daddied up and gone on the freeway, he still would have won the challenge despite Josh bending the rules at the start. But hey, apparently Josh graciously paid Ulysses for the gas money at the end of the video. Wow, so charitable, Joshua. Now I would like to touch on the idea of price. Now, admittedly, this is where some Josh stands could get me, but I would still like to point this out. So Chang's restaurant lists their chicken fried rice for $12.50. So if you're going to go pick it up, it's going to be, well, $12.50. One would have to factor in gas prices here, but if the round trip is around 10 to 11 miles, someone could assume that it would only be about $2 in gas. Now for Josh's meal, I'm going to turn to H-E-B, the prominent Texas grocery store for prices. So Josh made this with garlic, let's say 2, at 62 cents each, equaling $1.24, 1 Fresno pepper, equaling 56 cents, 1 shallot, equaling 45 cents, a 2-pound bag of rice for $1.50. Now, Josh said that if you think you need a certain amount of rice, double it. I was going to go with just 1 bag at 75 cents, but his rules, not mine.
Just double what you normally make.
2 green onions priced at $2.80. 2 eggs, which means you have to buy a dozen, no singles, $3.07. Flank steak, the cheapest one is priced at $6.82. White shrimp, it looks like there's maybe 8 pieces, so let's say about half a pound, equaling $4.10. Chicken breast, which you have to buy by the pound, equaling $5.56 at the cheapest, at $1.23 for ginger. So one might say, oh, you could totally get some of those meats for cheaper. Just go to the meat department and have them cut them. I would argue that your average grocery shopper doesn't know that, and instead will defer to the packaged materials. So all in all, the total price for the aforementioned ingredients is $27.33. So while you can enjoy Josh's creation and have a bunch of meat left over, you suddenly are put in a situation where you have a bunch of meat left over. While it's true that having flank steak and chicken by themselves are a good meal, one would probably feel betrayed by having so much excess left over, which is the crux of why many people living paycheck to paycheck shouldn't be listening to this guy. You could have got the same meal delivered with only 1 meat, and assuming you left a reasonable tip for the driver, still have saved money if you had Chang's restaurant delivered to your home. There's also the issue that I brought up earlier as to whether or not the restaurant was truly the closest one available, and the answer is no. If one looks at Yelp or Google Maps, one will find that there is an authentic Chinese restaurant called Hunan Chef a mere 6 minutes away from Nopo. It also has a Yelp rating of 3.5 out of 5 stars, so while it's not the best you can get, it's certainly fine. Meanwhile, no disrespect to Chang's, but it only has 3 out of 5 stars on Yelp. Additionally, Hunan Chef's pricing on fried rice is comparable to Chang's, if not much less. But Josh doesn't want you to know that. Instead, just spend an excessive amount of money and time to do it yourself. While cooking for oneself can be fulfilling, the ingredients required for Weissman's dishes are truly excessive and do not reflect the quality of the cook one can achieve with lesser ingredients. Next, I'd like to touch on the paid actors Josh hired at the end of this video at 7:14. 4 dudes who are blindfolded in the same room as the food they're going to be tasting. Josh, you cannot fool me. They are all standing there, so nonchalant, so relaxed. There's no anticipation there to taste 2 different kinds of food. This is a purely speculative part of the video, Josh, but at this point, with all of your tomfoolery, I know I'm right. In fact, why are they blindfolded? Isn't plating an essential part of the cooking process? Why don't you just plate 8 dishes and let them try it without the blindfolds? Is it because you threw in the chicken, beef, and shrimp, items that most Americans probably couldn't afford to plate into your own food? Let alone all at the same time? You're flexing on the average American dude. Not chill. I get your view counts are in the hundreds of thousands to millions, but I assure you 99% of these people are just looking at your cooking because it's cool to watch, not because they're actually going to eat it. 3 beats, 1 meal. All right, buddy. Also, I need to keep reiterating, since you do the same thing, Joshua, that the lame side dish at 7:38 is not only cheaper, but indeed faster.
This is more like a lame side dish.
Again, those chefs in Chang's kitchen whip that up faster than you, and if given the same 30 minutes you did, could probably make something that rivaled yours, assuming they had a limited budget. But they're a business. They're confined by the limits that their managers and or monthly cost limits restrict them to. Oh, and let's not forget, they cooked it faster than you. Ulysses picked it up from the restaurant when the food was objectively done faster than you. Ulysses could have consumed half of that meal at the restaurant by the time you were done cooking your excessive meal. Oh well. Hey, I will give you props though. Your food does look really good, and I would love to sample it. But I know that the cost of it would probably dwarf whatever Asian food place I would go to in order to pick up food. Look, we all knew that Josh's video was made to bend the rules as extreme as possible, so he could execute what he was trying to do. And frankly, that's fine. His channel is absolutely successful for a reason. The production values are high, the camera quality is great, the editing is good, if not a little over the top for my taste. But at the end of the day, what's really going on here? Sure, he tries to make food items with the guise as, no, these are actually cheaper than what fast food can come up with. But at the same time, creates food items with his bottomless kitchen appliances and swanky Houston apartment/house with which to create in. The disconnect is there, and while most people ignore it in favor of observing an objectively good chef prepare neat food items, there's always a feeling in the back of one's mind that this is something most casual chefs cannot do without additional help, be it through advice from a more adept personal friend, a teacher, or observing a chef rigorously through YouTube or other social media. Not to mention that the price of food from a grocery store, on average, has gone up in the last few months to a year, making the idea of going to McDonald's and picking up a couple of hamburgers a decent time to caloric content option. While YouTube is a perfect medium for aspiring chefs and/or content creators to get their culinary content onto the internet, there is truly a tremendous bloat of videos out there. While some are truly great and reinforce the notion that we are all looking to make ends meet and eke out that bottom dollar, some channels like Joshua Weissman are out there trying to preach the same beliefs, but simultaneously lack that connection to the common man. Truly, a man with so many resources within his kitchen cannot truly understand the value of cooking at home, be it making an affordable spaghetti dish, ramen, or a sandwich just to make ends meet.
Combination fried rice is not something that you would think takes all that long, but then when you include the time that it takes to place the order, go get it, and pick it up and bring it back, or even delivery, which is gonna be like a 30 to 45 minute process, you can still move faster and have a better product at the end of the day. You just don't wanna put in the effort. I think that's what it is.